4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Hello, everyone. This is CC Schatz, and you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And we have the Going Solo Veterans Show on today. And I have a special guest with me today, my dad. Hey, Dad.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
And my dad's name is Al Overmyer. Those of you that don't know, we've got some viewers already listening. We appreciate that. Kit, we see you here. And let's see who else we have. We have, if I can bring it up. Okay, we have another gentleman there. Amita's here. So I want to thank you guys for listening to us today. And what we're going to talk about is a little bit of my dad's journey. And so, Dad, you want to start us on this journey?
Yeah, well, I started out when I was 16. I got my pilot's license. And I went up to far as a commercial license. And I think it was 1948 is when I soloed. I soloed in an old airplane, an old Veronica. Well, I wasn't old then. It was brand new. My dad owned the airport, and he had 15 airplanes in Mishawaka, Indiana. And that's what happened to me there. And then I finally got drafted into the Korean War.
Tell us a little bit, Dad, about when you first started flying, some of the things that you did.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, just so we get a flavor of your personality.
Oh, well, the day I soloed, it was on my birthday. And we went out the end of the field and we hopped around the field. My dad showed me everything to do. We climbed at 400 feet, turned left, another 100 feet, turned left again. He told me everything to do. So I come around, I landed, and he says, "Son, can you make it?" Hell yeah. So he got out, slammed the door, and I popped the gun to it, and away I went. I took that baby off, and you know, the airplane even felt heavy, and he was telling me every move to make, and I turned around and looked behind me because I was flying out of the front, and he was sitting in the back with a tandem type airplane. And he told me every move to make, and he wasn't in the airplane because I turned around and looked, and the airplane even felt heavy. And I come around, I land perfect landing. I turned around there, and he waved me on, so I took off again. No, the airplane felt light, and he wasn't talking to me then. I was on my own. But I made it all right. I come around again, and I bounced that son of a gun 50 feet in the air. And but after that, I made perfect landings. But that first time around by myself, he told me every move to make. And I'm telling you.
And he wasn't even in the plane.
He wasn't even in. He was down on the ground because I turned around, I looked, and he wasn't there. But just things like that happen, you know. And I got drafted into actually it was the 101st Airborne in Breckenridge, Kentucky is where I took my training. I was in 101st Airborne. And I took 6 weeks of training. I come home for actually a weekend, and they sent me right to Korea. And I was to Korea for 3 years.
And that was back in 1953.
Back in 1953, that's
and
right.
You were about 20 years old then, huh?
Yeah, something like that, 20, 21.
Yeah.
I think I turned 21 in a foxhole. But anyhow, I made, I don't know, 15, 20 jumps behind the enemy lines, and then I got caught in a tree and broke my leg. And so they wouldn't let me jump no more. So about 2 weeks went by, and the company commander come to me and said, "Hey, I see you got a pilot's license." And I said, "Yeah, I got one." He said, "I want to show you some airplanes over here." And so he took me over to about 5 or 6. There was a Cub and a Veronica, Taylor Craft. I suppose you don't know what I'm talking about, but they was old there. Well, not old at the time. But he asked me, he said, one of them can you fly? And I said, "Well, I can fly them all." I said, "Well, just pick out one." So he picked out one, and I took him around the field and come back, and he says, "I'll be damned." I said, you want to fly another one? He said, no, I believe you. So anyhow, I started a good deal. I started taking, I had a guy sitting behind me, and I was taking pictures. We'd fly in just treetop high behind the enemy lines. And we got a lot of ground fire up through the wings and stuff, you know, and we had a big sheet of iron we was setting on so they didn't shoot us in the rear. But yeah, I did that for about a month. Then he come to me and said, yeah, I got another job for you. I said, what's this? He said, you're going to start picking up down pilots. Well, that was a little hairy there, but I didn't. And by God, you know, I got shot down twice doing that. But I made it back to my lines and landed the airplane. Didn't hurt the airplane at all. Just what happened, the ground fire hit a cylinder. They was all Lycoming motors, 6 cylinders. If anybody knows airplanes, they know what I'm talking about. And I made it back to my lines, and the guy was happy behind me. But I had quite a time in the service, I'll tell you.
And then there was a few times you got in trouble, huh?
Yeah, you know, I drank a little and fought a little. I made sergeant 3 times. I was supposed to have been sergeant when I got out, but for some reason my paperwork got all screwed up, and I come out as a private. But few things I did there, I didn't get. I should have, because he's recognized for it, like the flying. I never got recognized for that. That was not in my paperwork. Of course, my paperwork got all burnt and destroyed when I was over there. And
when you went to get your knee fixed, your leg, when you broke your leg, and then you got out of that, it was like a makeshift hospital, right, in Korea?
Yeah, it was a big tent. It was a big tent. And I that's where I went with my broken leg. And all my records, that had an office in there. And all my records at that time was in there, along with a whole bunch of people. Well, one day I was off probably 200 yards from the hospital, and they come over and they bombed it and just killed everybody in it. All the records were gone. The records so much as the people.
Yeah.
I mean, poor guys in their beds, you know, and it was just a shame. I don't know how many people it was, but they had a big red flag on top of that. They knew what they was bombing. They went right ahead and bombed the hospital.
Yeah, it's a shame.
But
tell us a little bit about when you used to go on your breaks. Like you would have a break. You went to, where'd you go? Didn't you go somewhere that you were telling me?
Yeah, I got 2 30-day leaves. I went to Tokyo, and I stayed in the Ernie Pyle Theater. Any veterans out there that was in Korea or Japan will know the Ernie Pyle Theater. It was beautiful, and everything was free. All of our lodging, all of our food. And if we would go out at that time, you know, that was in Korea. It wasn't too long after World War II, you know. And the Japanese really didn't care much for us, and we had to go out with at least 2 people. They didn't want us to go out single. Mm-hmm. And we always carried guns. We always had a 45 on us. And but most of the people were kind of nice, but the older people, they wasn't too good.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, which I know if there's any Korean veterans, something that sticks in my mind really bad. And I know if there's any Korean veterans, they'll know what I'm talking about. It makes me kind of, excuse me, but you'd see a woman coming at you with a little kid about so high. And about time you got maybe 25, 50 feet, she'd bend over and that kid would jump out of her back and there'd be a machine gun there. And he'd start mowing us down. I'll never forget that. It killed a lot of my friends. I'll never forget that. That was one of the worst things in the war, I think, is that woman bending down that kid shooting. It was awful, and more than once it happened. And it really bothers me. It really bothers me to have a woman do that and a kid, because you know you're gonna shoot him.
Mm-hmm. Now tell us a little bit about Granddad. My granddad did a lot of training, didn't he?
Well, my dad in World War II was the head of Batesville, Mobile, Alabama. And I'm trying to think of the airplane. It was two wings. It was all painted yellow. Damn, I'm getting old, I guess. But I can't think of the name of the airplane. But he was a head instructor there. And because they needed pilots bad. They needed pilots in World War II. And he was a good instructor, but he was in charge of the instructors. And when General Patton was over here, my dad flew his airplane, took him places while he was in the States. But he was ahead of Batesville, Mobile, Alabama. I'm trying to think of that airplane. I could see it, but I can't think of the name of it.
So Granddad did a lot of training.
Oh yeah, training. Yeah,
taught most of the pilots, right?
Yeah, he was the head of the instructors, and he also flew and trained people. Yeah, that was really something. I wish I could think of the name of that airplane. The airplane would almost fly itself. If anybody out there is a pilot, if I could think of the name of it, and you probably know it, you probably say, "Hell, I know it." It was a two-winger, painted yellow. Oh, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you something.
Okay.
My dad owned the airport, and after World War II, you could buy these fighters like the P-51s and stuff like that. You could buy them for $200 or $300. So my dad bought a couple of them, and this one was a pretty nice airplane. And one day my dad asked me, he says, "You want to go for a ride, son?" I said, "Oh, yeah." So it burnt a terrible amount of gasoline. Just jump around the field, you'd burn 80 gallons of gas. So we put 80 gallon in. Well, maybe I put 100 in. I don't know. But anyhow, it was P-51, fast for me. Anyhow, we jumped around the field, and he did a wing over and made that thing just, and you hear it all over the town. And we went up and come back around and landed. But he told me all the movements he was making. I had earphones on. He would tell me what he was doing with the stick and what he was doing. But most of that, if you can fly, all that comes to you. And anyhow, we landed. And God, I said, "Oh boy, that was fun," because it was fast. So about 3 weeks later, he left the airport. So, boy, I untied that baby, went out and put some gas in it, and I said, "I'm going to fly this thing." Now, that's a P-51. Here I was, 17 years old? And I weighed probably 145 pounds. And, if you are a pilot, you know what a P-51 is. Anyhow, I got in that thing, got it started. And I got down at the end runway, and I popped the gun to that baby. And I mean to tell you, I went across that runway. I was in the air before I knew it. Anyhow, I got up there, and I did a couple of wing overs just to make it yowl, And then I turned around, I come in, I landed, and everything worked good because I remember what he was saying, And just flying comes to me.
And you're here today to prove it.
I'm here today. Anyhow, I landed. And I thought, I'm going to get away with this. And son of a gun, just before I got up to the office and my dad drove in, he seen me taxiing that thing up there. And he just shook his head. Didn't say nothing. He just shook his head. I stopped it, tied it up. He didn't say nothing to me. But that next Sunday, we had quite a few instructors. He had, I think, 5, 6 instructors who worked at the airport. And there was probably 20, 30 guys come out there because after World War II, that GI Bill went where you could learn how to fly, and he had a lot of. And he was telling them guys, he said, "See that goddamn fighter plane over there?" He said, "My son flew that by himself." It was funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, he bragged about that. And I could fly anything.
So
Like
now you got out of the service in 1955,
yeah.
right? And then you met my mom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met her. I met Phyllis Driver. Yeah, that was her name.
That's right. You met my mom.
Yeah.
And then came along me.
And she bought me a ring and said we're getting married. And she was a wonderful woman. She died in '92 with cancer.
Yeah. She's pretty spunky, wasn't she?
Oh yeah, she was good,
Yeah.
smart, really smart.
So tell us a little bit about when you came home from the service, then you started driving, right?
Yeah, I started racing before I went in service. So they was old junk cars. You just tied one side down with a chain and old dirt tracks. But when I come home, I started driving sports cars. And I took my test in Indianapolis type cars. And I raced a few. I did good, but at that time I had two kids, and they wouldn't pay enough to take care of my wife and my kids and me.
Didn't you train with some of the famous
AJ
guys?
Foyt, Parnelli Jones.
Yeah, you trained with them.
In Indianapolis, yeah. Back down so this
and that was before it was called NASCAR.
Oh yeah, way
what
before.
Was it called then? It was called
what I was in was Northern Stock Car Association. Okay. But NASCAR didn't come along until I don't know exactly when. I wouldn't say.
Right. Okay.
But it's a good association, and they pay the guys really good. I'm glad that the drivers make money, not like us when we was driving. We were lucky to make $20. But of course, they didn't have none of the big tracks at that time. They had Indianapolis, but at that time, the only cars run there was Indianapolis type cars. And but it was.
And then you went on after me, and Mom made you quit.
Yeah.
Then you went on and you started doing other racing. What kind of racing did you do?
Well, I still stuck in the racing cars, but just local.
Right.
Just local. Like we didn't go 200 mile away. Kokomo, Indiana was one. South Bend, Indiana. There was a lot of other tracks I can't even.
And how fast do you think you got up your speed?
Oh,
when you were racing the sports cars, how fast did you go there?
150.
And then how fast on the, the stock cars did you go?
Oh, them old stock cars, hell, them old dirt tracks we was on, we probably didn't get up 70 mile an hour. Yeah, that's back when cars, they was, and the cars were junk.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to just take out the windows and put a seatbelt in there on top of it, leave the damn seat in there. We just sat on that.
Did you guys even wear helmets back then?
Well, we had what you'd call a helmet, yeah, but it was not near as nice as the helmets they've got nowadays. They've got some nice equipment nowadays.
Safety.
Yeah, and their shoes and their uniforms. And I'll praise NASCAR for that, because they. And another thing, NASCAR looks after the cars and don't let them get too wild with them. I mean, they keep them under control. And it's a good association. It's a good association.
So tell us a little bit about all the different kind of vehicles you had, because cars and all that stuff is a good thing for you.
Oh, I had
all kinds of, like when you were young, you guys had like a Model T, right?
Oh yeah, that was my first car. I'll tell you that story. My dad and my brother, we was at Pawpaw, Michigan. I don't know, probably nobody knows where that's at. But anyhow, this old Model T, it wasn't old. It was an 8, good shape. We give $20 for it.
Oh my gosh, $20.
The old man had died, and the lady was there, and she was in a rocking chair, rocking like this. And my brother, I don't know if anybody knows, he had a spark on one side and an auxiliary on this side. The pedal you pushed way down to go, halfway up was neutral, all the way up was go. Center was reverse, and they called it a brake over on the other side. But anyhow, my brother was out there just cranking it, and it's kicking like hell. And the old lady let him do about a half hour. And she says, boys, let me tell you something. I don't want to tell you how to start that car, but Dad always put his heel on that little button there between your legs and started right off. My dad said, you mean it's got electric starter? She said, yeah, push that button. So anyhow, he pushed that button and started right up. That was funny. She laughed. Yeah, she must have been old me. But anyway, that was a good one. That was really good.
So your first car was a Model T. Then you promoted to what?
Model A.
Model A.
I had a Model A Roadster, 1929, black, rumble seat, top laid down. Nice car. Model A was a nice car. Then I don't know what I went to after that. I think I had a 37 Ford or 39 Ford. But I've had nice.
Well, I know when I was growing up, we had station wagons.
Yeah, we had station wagon. And I went in, I'm going to tell you a story here. Me and my dad went and bought, I got a 250 Honda, and he had a 160. We had him for, I don't know, about a year, I guess. Well, I graduated to a Harley Electric Glide. You all know what that is. And anyhow, I was polishing my Electric Glide there in my garage, and the neighbor across the lake come over, and he said, what you going to do with that old Honda there? I said, that ain't old. It's only a year old. He said, I got something I'll trade you for. And I said, what's that? And he said, I'll be back. He come back, he had a 1955 Jaguar, two-seater. The seats are the fenders that come way back, worth a lot of money. Dummy, I'm dumb. Anyhow, he come in there and he says, I'll trade you my Jaguar for that motorcycle. So I said, you got the title? He says, yep. So I went in and got my title. We traded. The only thing I had to do, the car had been restored. The only thing I had to do was bolt the front bumper on it. He had the bumper. And I bolted the front bumper on, and I drove that thing. It was a beautiful car. Beautiful. And I kept it for I don't know how long. But I had so many toys that my wife, she made me sell it. And I forget what I bought after that.
I remember there was a car I went with you, and I had to like shimmy into the back seat.
Oh, that was a MGB.
Yeah. I
had a full race Corvette engine in it. So you know what that thing was. That was a bullet. There's a full race Corvette engine in that MG. And the only thing you could tell, it had a little Mach 1 thing on the hood. And it had two exhaust pipes about that big coming out the rear. And I put quiet mufflers on it, so it wouldn't make a lot of noise. And I was in I think it was Titusville. We was over there. I was driving truck, and we was working that submarine base. And these kids pulled up beside of me, and I had my son in there at the time. He was real little. And the girl kind of laughed at me and wanted to know if that car would get up to 30 miles an hour. I said, yeah, it'll get 30. And we were sitting side by side, and they took off just burning rubber, going like the wind. And so anyhow, I got to the next red light, and I said, boy, that thing's fast. And I couldn't get going now until I got about 40 miles an hour. Because I just left them little thin tires, skinny tires on there, So anyway, the next red light, we took off. They got about 2 car lengths ahead of me. I got up to 50, and I let that son of a gun go. I passed them like they were standing still. And we went on down to about 2 red lights before I got stopped. And we pulled into shopping center, and the kid says, "What in the heck have you got in that?" I said, "A 4-cylinder." He said, "You ain't either." He said, "I got everything I can do to this, the Firebird." Yeah, Firebird. And I opened up the hood, and he looked in there. Holy man! He said, "How'd you get that in there?" I said, "Actually, I bought it like this. I traded a damn boat for it." And he said, "Wow." He said, "That thing's fast, isn't it?" And I said, "I really don't know how fast it'll go." I said, "But I can't get going until I get about 50 because of the tires, the little skinny tires." And he says, "Man, you passed me like I was sitting still and I was doing 90. He said, you had to be doing 130. I said, "I could have been." I said, "I have no idea. The speedometer when it goes up to 80. And
So you've lived a very full life with a lot of excitement, huh?
ain't nothing I ain't tried.
I know you had some boats, you did some
Oh,
boating, and
when I quit race carring, I asked my wife what she wanted to do. She said, "I want a boat." I said, "What kind of boat do you want?" "Big boat." I said, "Well, how big a boat?" She's at least 50 foot. I said, "Whoa, that's a big boat." So anyhow, we was living in, what the hell was that place? Edwardsburg. And I manufactured travel trailers and truck campers. I'd had it for quite a few years, making good money. And anyhow, so I told her, I said, "Well, let's go looking for something." We found an old, I think the year was 41. It was a 41 Chris Craft cabin boat, a double plank, and you boaters know what I'm talking about. Double plank, the teak decks, and in the cabin, as you come on a lounge on the back, then you go down into a cabin. It was beautiful, all stainless steel kitchen. It was beautiful. So I told the guy, I said, "We want it, we'll buy it." Well, that day we looked at the boat. We just had a pair of shorts on, dressed like bums. And I had the oldest truck that I had in the company we was driving because I liked it. And I said, "I'll be back tomorrow with the money to pay for it." He says, "Okay." So we come back the next day, dressed up, and I had a new Country Squire station wagon. We was driving that, and we walked in. I told him, I said, "How come you got that boat out there?" And I said, I reached in my pocket. I pulled out a lot of money, and I said, "Here, I'm going to pay you for it." Holy Christ, he got on the telephone. He got guys out, and they got that thing out, and it was beautiful. I think it was her that got up on it when we first looked at it, and
me?
I think it was
Oh,
you,
me?
because you was the oldest one,
Yeah.
and I'm almost positive you're the one that got up there. And you pulled the dirt back, and you said, "Dad, this thing is beautiful." And it was. When they got it out there and washed it up, it was in a divorce deal.
Yeah, what happens in divorce?
Yeah. And there was an old man that worked there, and he told me, "Al," he says, "I start this motor once a month."
Mm-hmm.
He says, "So don't worry about it." Let me tell you this. Now, boater know what I'm talking about. Double plank boat, been setting for years. You know what I'm talking about. I got in there and looked down in there. It had cracks. It had cracks that far, like that. I told the old man, I said, "Boy, I'm going to have to caulk this boat." "Oh, no. He says, "Don't do that." He says, "We'll put it in a sling and we'll put water in it and let it hang overnight." He says, "I'll guarantee you, overnight, this boat will drain the water out and it won't leak a bit." So he did. And that thing swelled right up, closed, and I never even had a bill. Well, I had a bill, but I never had to use it. And it was a 1941. And that year was probably, well, she was born in 56.
Don't be telling Dad how old I am.
Maybe it wasn't. Could have been the neighbor girl.
Yeah. We're also on Instagram. Hey, Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been trying to hit the waves. We love you. Thank you for joining us here. Dad's telling us a little bit about his life, his journey. being in the service and then out of the service. Also gave away my age, but we'll just erase those numbers. But but a lot of fun. You've come a long ways from that 21-year-old in a foxhole, right?
86.
Yeah, 86. And so you're doing pretty good now. So anything you want to say as we close up the show, Dad?
No, just, you know how I got to be 86?
Uh-oh, here we go.
Eating everything I'm supposed to.
And he doesn't eat anything green.
Oh, nothing green.
Nothing green.
Nothing green.
But it's amazing. Well, this is our show here today on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're listening to the Going Solo Veteran Show. I hope you enjoyed it with my dad, telling you a little bit about his journey while he was in the service, and also his journey as he grew up from a young boy of 18 flying planes and going into buying boats, and when I was born. So I hope you enjoyed the show. We like these real stories, these real journeys. And if you'd like to share your journey with us on Going Solo Veterans, we would love to have you. So all you have to do is reach out to us. Send me an email on goingsolonetwork@gmail.com or reach out to me on Facebook. We are all over the place. We've got our WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Facebook page. We're on YouTube. We're on Pinterest. We're on just anything, you name it. We're on it. We're on speaker. So just, listen to this rebroadcast. It's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun doing this show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.
See ya.